All
So
right.
if you guys,
Welcome, everybody. Today, we are dealing with a pretty serious issue that impacts the entire organization. Although it says, are you overloading your top performers? I promise you the strain starts there and then pushes throughout the rest of the scaffolding and the structure. But let's start with the top level topic. High achievers get rewarded with more work.
It's not called performance punishment for nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to go into an anecdote as soon as I finish this lead-in, but it is a surefire recipe for burnout and turnover. You need to balance performance with capacity and recognition. We're going to talk a lot about how to unpack ways to protect your best people while still pushing for growth. There's nothing wrong with growth, but there's some horribly wrong things with burnout. Systems are your friend, and processes are your friend, and the other stuff that just keeps people motivated, healthy, and loyal, the human things outside of the systems and processes, so that the people inside of them feel great about being there. We want to talk about recognizing the warning signs of burnout, how to balance capacity with fairness, how to structure performance with caps and plans on territory, how to build a culture of recognition and appreciation. I want to put a pin in handoffs, and understanding what they are is a huge piece of this. But overall, we want to help you protect yourself against talent drain, ways to sustain high performance, and frameworks to just keep people thriving and maybe help those high performers lift others up, right? That whole rising tide thing. My dad used to say something when I was young that's made more and more sense over the years. He said, be careful of proving what you're capable of, because people will expect it.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing that we can unpack today as well. But yeah, where should we start on this?
Whew. So many lessons here. I almost want to go back to a foundation in org design, right? What are the dimensions by which you can determine somebody's maximum scope of authority, right?
Okay.
Position complexity. How challenging is the thing that they're doing?
Right.
And uniqueness, and to a lesser extent, geography. Right? So the higher you go, you're managing increasingly more complex people. Absolutely. So should any CEO have 30 VPs reporting to them? No. You should not. Too complex, too big, you can't possibly.
Yeah.
Should a frontline call center manager have 30 call center representatives reporting to them? Quite possibly. It's 30 of the same job, and the task set for each one is far simpler. So by those dimensions, you should be very thoughtful and intentional about your org design to avoid overloading your leaders and your top performers, right? So that's just one dimension of how it applies to leadership and org design and some of the best practices and dimensions. So I see people go wrong with this all the time. I'd love to dig more into what you were saying, Jacob, about like, what are the warning signs, right? Because there's a lot there too. One of the warning signs that I see increasingly in modern society is sick day usage.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you guys see as warning signs for burnout?
So I love that you brought up the sick day usage, because I was going to bring up PTO usage.
Yeah.
If you see people maxing out their PTO, then they're likely going to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I'm
The
going to
other,
go back to systems for a second. Not just because that's the biggest role that I play in serving, but again, like I was just sitting there 2 weeks ago in the room with the people, the 86 companies between 10 million and 1 billion. And, I pulled up the quote just so I could read it out again, right? From a diagnostic across these high velocity companies, the comparing of the ones that grew fast versus the one that struggled revealed a clear pattern. Not talent, not tools, not effort,
Right.
a shared operating model. Now, the reason I'm saying that is actually, for me, it starts to answer some of the other questions about the signs of burnout, about fairness, and that kind of stuff, because when those things are clear and the role has a box that it fits inside of,
Mm-hmm.
then you can easily see the high performers because the cup is running over.
Right.
And you can see where scope creep starts to happen, which sneaks into every single job or role instead of an organization too. And I think the lack of clarity in the definitions of knowing like where work stops and ends is a big thing for helping with burnout, because you get two things. One, the people who know they're reaching outside of the box and the resentment starts to build up.
Yep.
Because they have capacity, they are capable, they can multitask, they can take on two jobs instead of their own, even though it's a half of job before and half of job after. But secondarily, there's that lack of clarity that comes from the people they're reporting to as well. And those people can't say, at capacity, below capacity, not functioning at all, phoning it in. Right? If you don't have the landscape, you cannot do any navigating.
Can I add a piece to this, Jacob? Process, right? Like,
yeah.
What do we think the impact is on top performers when you assign them a task? Let's say implement the applicant tracking system, and you write the project plan, and they work their ass off for 3 months to get it going.
Mm-hmm.
We define all the processes, we enable the automation, we upload all the job profiles, right? Employment screening question, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 3 months.
Right.
The whole team works on it. And at the end of the 3 months, the VP says, oh, shit can that. We're going a different direction.
Yes. I was waiting for the punchline. Thank you. Having seen that too many times myself, I've been inside of the blueprint where we're scoping stuff out and speaking to people in roles, and I can say without a doubt it lingers for close to 18 months.
Yes.
That thing that happened. That's the anniversary of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could see the air go out of the balloon, right? It's like you just like they were completely deflated, right? Hashtag insert sick day usage here, right? Like
so I have a question about this though, because coming at it from an executive's perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Being on the receiving end of this multiple times, it sucks donkey butt. Like it's the worst, right? Yep. But coming at it from an executive's perspective, they have more information than we do. And sometimes, you do need to pivot, and you need to pivot fast, which means that all of that labor gets thrown in the garbage. And it sucks. True. It really sucks. So how do you tackle that sort of a situation so that, like, as the leader, when you tell them, hey, we've actually got to put a pause on this, or, I'm sorry, you have to throw it all away. Like, we can't use it anymore for whatever reason. Like, how do you handle that so that it doesn't deflate the balloon?
Yeah.
It is hard because, all right, let me tell you how I go about it, because I've actually done this. Brutal honesty with empathy note what is gained, express the faith in the people that experience has provided foundational knowledge and competency growth that should enable better performance for the next thing we're going to do. Appreciate them as much as you can throughout the expression, right? So it sounds like this. Zach, you've done a hell of a job implementing the ATS. I'm really proud of the work we've done. I'm sorry to say that in 30 days, we're going to be replacing it with this other system. The company has decided to put on and implement an entire HCM system that includes an ATS.
Right.
So as we go forward with that, your like detailed knowledge of exactly how the guts of this thing work, how it's configured, right? All that experience is going to be critical in us standing up the function in the new system and then transitioning from this one to that one. Do you think you'd be willing to help with that? I think you're the only person who can do it. Right? So we're asking for buy-in. They might say why. I might add more why there, not just the what, right? But this will save us money in the long run. This will provide greater efficiency and process flow from a unified system. This will, right? There's a why there. But I'm going to focus more on the team member when we're doing this, less on the business reason, right? Because what they're feeling in that moment is loss, right?
Yeah.
And resentment. And we're going to replace that with some pride, right?
And
you know, go ahead,
work
Jake.
is different. Work is different than sport.
Right.
So although, you know, the marathon is the distance it is, and the pistol goes off and everybody starts, and then you're just trying to beat that time, a work cadence, it's already laid out for you. This project is going to roll out in a quarter, and therefore we have the monthly and the weekly updates. And you can stop the marathon and get a shoulder rub and a high five and a couple hugs and thank yous 12 times on the way there, instead of just that other mentality that leadership can have sometimes of just like suffering through because the finish line's the only goal. And I think you can recover a whole bunch of goodwill by, you know, having that magic trick at the end where the tablecloth comes out and the people are still standing like, whoops, we didn't plan on this, but this is what's happening now, by having celebrated every single incremental milestone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I say all the time, being a carrot slinger rather than a stick wagger, right? Like walk around all the time handing out carrots. Great job. Well done. Awesome.
And I know I've brought this up, but I love the handing out carrots, because I had a buddy who worked for a company, and I've mentioned this in the past, but they would do every Friday, the founder would just bring in a bag of money for the team. And he would say, this person did awesome. That person did awesome. This person did awesome. Specifically what they did that was so good.
Right.
And in the bag, they had like $10 to $100 bills. And he would say, okay, reach into the bag. And they could reach in and just take cash out of the bag.
Right.
And it was like, that was such a huge motivator. Like, this guy is now making, you know, $400,000 plus a year. Right. So that $100 was so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Right. But like, my buddy, who is now making over $400,000 a year, still remembers that. He still remembers that.
Right.
And I think that those carrots are really powerful. On the flip side, though, you have to be careful, because one of the things that I've personally observed is how deflating it can be to have a leader make a promise after promise after promise without any fulfillment, and without even acknowledging that they made that promise.
Yep. Denying.
That's
Yeah,
I had an employer that I was working with. So in a previous life, I was a data analyst, and I started working with this company. They had vetted me. They had courted me, wanted me to work for them. They had specifically said, oh yeah, we'll get you involved in data analytics. It'll be great. So I go in and I start working for this company. And the first thing they do is put me in a tiny little room on a hostile team. And when I mentioned, hey, I thought that you were going to let me sort of lead the data analytics in your company, I never mentioned that. I never said that.
Oh.
And it was just so deflating, because it took me from seeing this place as, oh, there's a future here, to, all right, I got to do my time. And then when the time is up, I'm out. Right. Because it was like, this became a prison almost.
Right.
Or if they say, Rob, we're bringing you on to install and design and implement a modern performance management system. And every year, a bunch of us visit the owner's properties in Aspen and Mansion in Wisconsin, and we have team getaways and all that messaging. And then you say yes and take the job, and they want you to implement 1992, right? They want people to be numbers. They don't want a competency model. They want highly subjective, no objective, KPIs, metrics, no SMART goals, Rob. We're not ready for that yet. So what do you're doing 19, you said modern, right? You hired me for that. And then the annual meeting came around. Oh, we're going to Aspen.
Ooh,
You're not.
Even better.
Right?
You're not a part of the cool kids club.
Right. So it's the lying and the Machiavellianism and the like dishonesty and over salesmanship of a role. And then, yeah, Zach, go sit in this room on a hostile team. And I never said that.
And like, this is the thing that's so shocking to me, because, what is it? The book Traction by Gino Wickman has sold, 1,000 billion copies, or however much it is. He's practically worshipped in the small to mid-sized business space. And yet nobody does what the hell the book tells them to do.
That's right. That's right.
This is exactly what the book tells them to do. Yes, you need to have KPIs. KPIs are important, but you also need to have those soft things that can be measured against, because sometimes people don't know if they're doing a good job, because all KPIs do is tell them that they are doing their job. KPIs are not, you cannot.
It's not the whole story.
No, it's not the whole story. Like, so this is one thing that the 5-star rating has deluded us into believing. The 5-star rating has deluded us into believing that you can quantify quality. But the soft, squishy data analytics side is called qualitative. The base is quality, and it is not measurable. And so we're deluded into believing, I can give you a 4 out of 5 stars. That tells you how quality you were. I don't know if you guys have ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, but a dude literally goes insane trying to think, how do I know if I'm quality or not? If my teaching is quality or not? Like, just, and so it's like, you have to have the quantitative, but you also have to pair that with the qualitative, the side that cannot be measured with crunchy numbers. Because the quantitative just tells you, you did this. Did you do your job? Did you do 50 sales calls today? Did you, or this week, did you close $500,000 in sales this year, which is, the requirement? Did you do this? Yes or no? How much in sales did you close? That is not a measure of quality. It's not a measure that someone can take and say, okay, therefore what? And that's where the qualitative, the squishy, the soft side really comes in. And to our point earlier, and I'll say this and then I'll get off my soapbox. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But to our point earlier, employees burn out when they don't know whether or not they're doing a good job. And often the employees that care the most about your companies are the first ones to leave because they want to go someplace where they do know that they're making a difference.
Yeah.
Yes. They have the most choice, the most options. So you end up with a culture of mediocrity and subpar performance. Those who stay because they can't leave. Is that the org you want to have? I don't think that was any chapter in Good to Great. Right? Build a culture of mediocrity.
Another book I hate.
So it's just wild. It's wild. The burnout, the precious few people will actually say to their boss, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, right? Like, so if you are lucky enough to have a person actually articulate that to you, right?
Yeah.
High five. What can I do? Tell me more, right? Lean into that with some curiosity. Like, what do you think the basis for that is? What could we delegate? What could we, hand to somebody else? What could we delay? Take off your plate until the fourth quarter, right? Like different strategies. Let's talk. I know you're a competent human being, right? Like, what is the stressor? Is it absolute workload? Is it mental agility? Is it what you have to go do yourself versus leading your team? Like, because there are only so many hours in the day and there's only so much capacity for work among each human being.
Yeah.
So if they're working that 55 plus hours a week and they're coming to you, like raising their hand, waving a flag, right? Like, come on. Like, I need a person means I'm struggling. Excessive sick days means I'm struggling. Missing deadlines means I'm struggling, right?
Yeah. And to get back on the system soapbox for a second, just having seen it face to face a few times, there's the founding team that carries things forward with a completely different kind of energy that isn't necessarily healthy. We need to address that.
Right.
They are driven, but then there's the whole managing the expectations. Like, I've arrived, I'm stepping out of this role, I'm going to be replaced. And that person even has the capacity. Never mind the knowledge base.
Right.
The tools. Unfortunately, most of those tools are embedded in the nervous system of the person who's leaving, not sitting in a playbook somewhere where they could be utilized. And, that's one of those situations where, again, like, getting unstuck is not always about just flooring the pedal and hoping for the best.
Right.
Right. And I think that creates a very difficult environment. Right. Because the standards are up here and there's no transfer of how to get up here other than try harder.
And doesn't that suck to be on the receiving end of that?
Yeah.
It's
excited to be there and wanting to perform, right?
Right.
And I think, so I love that you brought that up, the wanting to perform, because I think that a lot of times bosses just sort of get into this adversarial perspective where it's like, oh, they just, they're just lazy. They don't want to perform. They don't care. Like, no, they actually do. Like, people don't want to do a bad job. Like, they really don't. Even fast food workers have pride in what they do. I'll tell you though, oddly enough, the only job I ever got fired from was making pizzas. I worked for 2 weeks and the owner said to me, Zach, I need to let you go. And I said, why? And he said, because you're not proud of making pizzas. So, it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
If I'm the owner of that pizzeria, I want someone on my team who isn't going to sit there and belittle, not that I did that, but who just isn't going to take the work that they're doing with pride. And that makes sense.
Maybe your gift was delivery.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's possible. I think that the other part of this is we call them businesses now. They used to be called companies. And I was reading Robin Hood to my kids a couple of years ago. And the word that stuck out to me is that they used to call Robin Hood and his band of merry men his company of merry men. That was the word that they used. And so what is a company? It's not a business per se. It's a collection of human beings working toward a common goal. Right. And if you look at Robin Hood, right? Robin Hood is clearly the leader. Then he's got his little group of executives, you know, Will Scarlet, Little John, Friar Tuck, like all of those guys. And then you have everybody else who's there working. Why? Because they want to get rich. Like they're robbing from the rich to give to the poor and themselves. Like they are enriching themselves in the process. And we don't think about business that way anymore. We don't put the employee first. We don't put the human first. We put the process first. And that's because we live in an industrial age, right? Where our school system, technically we're in a post-information age, I would argue. And our school systems in the United States particularly were geared towards an industrial age education. And so we are trained to focus on the assembly line, focus on the system, focus on your part in that wheel, instead of thinking about, no, look at this. This is an organic system. We're all working together. We're a group of people with a common cause. And if you look at Robin Hood, right? Robin Hood was no more or less important than the latest guy who joined his band. He didn't think he was. And man, it was a lot of fun. They had a great time doing it. But like that is, I think, the definition of company that we need to get back to if we want to make businesses flourish and avoid burnout with our workers. Because the example that you talked about, Rob, where like they're going to Aspen without you, like,
oh yeah, I completely agree. It's what I actually love about the work that we do, because we had a team meeting today where we kind of dug into this because it's always the focal point. So we have clients, but they have customers. And the measure of the work that we do is always based on the impact on the life of that customer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's the core principle. Everything else is designed around serving that. And why shouldn't it? Because that's the thing that feeds the company, right? That prevents the company from starving, or like the only way to not starve, I guess, is to rob people at that point.
Well, we don't want people to actually start robbing other people.
No.
No.
So you need to be in there providing a service, right? Like even if it's a product, there's still a service attached where that impact matters.
So we talked earlier about some signs that burnout might be happening in your culture. I wonder if here at the end we can maybe spend a little bit of time talking about how valuable it is to know if burnout's happening in your culture, and is it possible to diagnostically, in a validated way, know what the state of stress and performance is, i.e. burnout in your culture?
First off, KPIs need to be about more than just how many leads got ran through the pipeline. You can create all sorts of feedback loops, like how was your week? How was your day? I know few companies, in fact, it's different startups that have platforms where they provoke these kind of conversations. They're trying to measure the happiness index of the people inside of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they are selling is just how little effort it takes. It's like, it's going to take 60 seconds out of their day. But one company in particular, I've been inside the back end, and what's most interesting about it is, although the questions seem kind of abstract, you can kind of map the responses directly towards how they feel about management and leadership.
Yeah.
Because there's a correlation there.
Absolutely.
It's almost like if your employees are happy, then they'll like the work that they do. They'll do a better job for you, more thorough job, which impacts your customers, which impacts your bottom line and your top line revenue.
Yeah.
Imagine
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So the really interesting thing, I don't know if we get the chance to throw up the image, but Google has done some of this work. That's the first one. That's the stress performance curve. There's an optimal performance range. You want people beyond challenged, right? You want them, like if someone tells you they're bored at work, you got room, right? So push on them a little harder. But be very aware when you start seeing signs of exhaustion, which we've talked about. So this is the first image. Can you throw up the second one, Zach? So Google did some of this work, and indeed Unilever did too. So they implemented what's called the Resilience Builder Assessment, and they saw these kinds of outcomes in their culture. So look up Google in the news, see all that they're facing, listen to the message from their CEO, and then say, how in the world did they get a 25% increase in retention? And then we get to 25% reduction in absenteeism. That's sick days, right? So when people show up more, right, you retain them longer, you end up with lower cost of turnover, i.e. $2.7 per dollar spent, right? 2.71 ROI. Like, the numbers are real, the outcomes are real, the validation is real. If big businesses like this know the impact, right, and make the investment to fight burnout in their culture, then other businesses should be as well. So I'll get off my soapbox at this point and just say, if you want to know diagnostically the state of burnout in your org, the answer is yes, we can do that.
Absolutely. And again, it seems kind of obvious. It is profitable.
It goes right on the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
There is a return. Absolutely brilliant.
Great topic today.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? Anything, like, for me, the mantra that I'd come back to is cadence. Right? Instead of that, like, quarterly project, quarterly goal, quarterly report, quarterly let's toss it out and change our minds. What about monthly? What about weekly? Like, I think just increasing the cadence.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have that cadence, doing the thing that, again, we built an automation for this inside of the customer-centric part of our RevOps. And it's like, how are we doing? How are we doing? It takes seconds to send somebody a message and say, how are we doing? And give them a 1 to 5.
Right.
And then you start to manage that data. I think with a couple minutes of editing, I could turn it into how are you doing? And you could send it internally.
Yep.
And so there's so many different ways of asking that question, and teaching people that they matter because you are asking is probably a good start.
Yeah. I love that cadence idea, and I think that's really important. The thing that I always come back to is you have to see the human, because business capitalism is fundamentally helping somebody else solve their problems in exchange for money. And you have to see the human in order to do that. Doesn't matter how much you systematize things, unless you see the human on the other end, you will never be successful. And that includes with employee management as much as it is customer success. So you have to see the human on the other side of that conversation.
Absolutely. Very well said.
I almost want a truth table, right? Maybe that's something we work on, guys. Like people, good. Process, bad. Outcome, good. Right?
Yeah.
People, bad. Process, good. Outcome, bad. Right?
Like, are you talking about the 4 quadrants? Because one thing I learned in grad school is all truth can be distilled into 4 quadrants.
I'm actually thinking like legit truth tables, right? Like variable 1, variable 2, what's the operator in between? Is an and or an or, if and only if, right? Like when we do computer logic design and right, like there's a truth table here. Does process matter? Yes. Does it trump people who are committed, competent, and willing to overcome? Nope. Right? Will it burn them out over time if you have a crappy process and you ask them to continuously overcome? Yes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So it's when the people and the process align.
Well,
that's when success happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Thank you so much for your time and for just taking the time to dig into this stuff, this level.